Hello and welcome to Careers Express webcast. I am Elisabeth, an associate of the Cyprus Mail, and today we will be focusing on connectivity, or rather digital connectivity, which is the backbone of society, linking homes with workplaces and schools during this challenging time. Joining me today is Maria Christofide, Corporate Social Responsibility Manager at Amdocs. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you, Elisabeth.
This is the second year where schools and workplaces are shuttered and people adopted remote work, remote learning. And whether we talk about digital inclusion or divide, we need to look at this connectivity from the perspective of society as a whole. So what kind of connectivity people experience during this time?
Sure. So when we're talking about the digital divide, we're talking about three components. So we have internet connectivity, devices, and digital skills. So in order to access the internet in a meaningful way and take advantage of all the good things that it has to offer, you need a fast and reliable internet connection. You need a device that will suit your needs, whether that's performing online transactions or e-learning or remote work. And of course, you need the right digital skill set from basic to advanced skills. And of course, each of these components has its own complexity and has to do with infrastructure, with affordability, public policy in many cases, the cooperation of the private sector. So it's a complex issue, but also a very challenging one. It's a big challenge for our world right now on how to solve these problems and solve them today. This year especially, it has accelerated digitization like no other before. And we are at a time where we are creating a remote everything. So it's how we do it and do it fast.
Right. Right. So it is a complex issue as it is in its how it turned out to be. So what are the main challenges and the gaps that we can see within this complex environment?
Sure. So in each of those three components, we have different issues at play and different kinds of investments needed. For me, the biggest one is the skills gap, and that's the one that needs the bigger investment when it comes to human resources, and also what is more difficult to solve. Because upskilling and reskilling the workforce or the students of now that will become the workers of tomorrow, that's where the future lies at, and that's where we need to act. In Cyprus, for example, we know that while 92% of our households have access to broadband, only 1 in 2 have basic digital skills. And we're not even talking about careers in information and communication technology, where only 2.2% of our workforce works in this sector.
Technology.
And exactly. So the challenge is very big, both for the government, for the society as a whole, for the private sector, and it's something that's that also has a very high potential for growth.
Okay, so we touched bases on the skill set as a challenge. Did Cyprus or people in Cyprus experience any kind of disconnect other than this, let's say this challenge of skill set? Any other reasons that they experience disconnect?
So actually, during 2020, internet connectivity grew in Cyprus, which for us it's not a surprise because it's a basic service, just like electricity and water, especially this year. but also thinking about the economic decline that we had last year, you're thinking that maybe some people would have expected some disconnection, but actually it was the opposite. However, the issue is how are we ready to use the internet when it comes to education, when it comes to work, when it comes to healthcare. Actually, the data about Cyprus tells a very interesting story for me. While we are at the best performers in the EU when it comes to using the internet for voice or video calls, so we are 85% of people in Cyprus use the internet for voice or video calls in 2020. We are the worst performers when it came to selling goods or services online, only 2%. And using health services online, 0%.
Wow.
Exactly. So here is where is the gap, but also the biggest potential for digitization, jobs creation, and of course, economic growth.
Right. Any issues of affordability here in Cyprus? Did we see any challenges in that area?
I can only say what the data says, that because internet penetration grew, we know that connectivity wasn't the bigger issue here. I think in Cyprus it was mostly the devices gap and also the skills gap that we said before. So a family that had 1 or 2 computers at home, now suddenly having the children at home that had to study online, and then the parents are home having to work online, that put a strain at the finances, I think, of every single household. And it was something that happened in in a matter of weeks, that even families that they were very well off, they struggled with it. I can say that in Amdocs, at least, we have a program for many years now that we are donating refurbished computers to schools and non-governmental organizations. And last year there was a big demand, and for those devices that we try to fulfill as much as possible. So on the one hand, helping with the digital device gap, and of course reducing our e-waste.
That's an excellent initiative on behalf of Amdocs. Okay, so we talked about the gap in skill set. How is this impacting on the workforce, the digitization, and not being able to keep up with digitization?
Sure. So Microsoft is actually estimating that in the next 4 years, there will be 149 million new jobs to be created in ICT, mostly in the areas of software development, cloud, and data analytics. The issue is, how do we fulfill those jobs? And right now there are hundreds of thousands of jobs in the EU in ICT that are unfulfilled. And at the same time, there is high unemployment in other areas. So it's about reskilling and upskilling the workforce to gain those skills. The highest growth jobs of the future are in artificial intelligence, machine learning, cloud, Internet of Things, cybersecurity. So we know that these are the sectors that are high growth and high potential for people who are graduating or who want to keep up with the trends of the technology of the world.
Okay, so who's the responsibility to reskill or upskill these people? Is it the government? Is it the private sector? So what is your thought on that?
I would say it begins on the individual level, because you need to have the drive and the curiosity to learn those skills, and of course become employable and high skilled. Of course, the government as well, the education system needs to be advanced to be able to provide solutions to all these problems, but also the private sector companies like us that we have a very high interest, of course, because we want people to work for us, that sometimes we're struggling to recruit because there is just not enough graduates in ICT. So I would say that it's a partnership between the private sector, the public sector, and of course it all comes down to the individual.
Right. Okay, so you believe that the digital divide eventually can bring inclusion to keep everyone connected, yes? To overcome the technological revolution that we're currently having?
I think we need to think about it as becoming part of the technological revolution, and it's something that is happening. It's something that will continue happening over the next years. Thinking about the first industrial revolution, it was the man versus the machine. Now we have to think about how do we work together with the machine, because it's something that is happening and we have to keep up. Now, when it comes to the individuals, again, it's about owning our learning and owning our career path. I was thinking about the geographical barriers as well that are practically diminished now with remote work, which means that people with any disabilities when it comes to their movement, now they don't have to go to a physical office, so they can work from home. This brings a huge it's a huge potential for persons who have any kinds of disabilities, and also even for people who want to work in a different country or different continent. A couple of years ago, the concept of a digital nomad was something very revolutionary,
Yes.
of people traveling to a place and at the same time working. Now it's becoming more and more mainstream.
Right.
Of course, we need to design the future in order to be inclusive for everyone, and it's not intuitive. So we have to make a conscious effort, both as tech companies and as governments and as a society in general, to make sure that we're not leaving anyone behind.
Right. You mentioned something about revolution and also the concept that now, after so many revolutions, people will be working with machines. Do people realize that they need to work with machines rather than it's something against working with machines?
I think it's a mindset that we have to overcome. It's not us versus them. Yeah, technology
Right.
is a tool, and it really depends how we use it. It has brought massive changes in medicine, in our everyday
Yes.
lives.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot even think of how this pandemic would have played out if we didn't have the technology that we have today.
Right.
And honestly, thinking, especially the elderly, being stuck at home, they were the ones that are most in danger of for this pandemic. Not having any of these skills and tools to do anything online, it's very scary. And also for the rest of the society, if we didn't have the opportunity to work remotely or learn remotely, it would have been a completely wasted year.
Right. So you think that mainly the elderly are the ones who are resisting this a technological change, and they're seeing this as an enemy, let's say, for their everyday life, rather than the young. Can you be more specific with the age groups, or yeah?
So for the elderly, I don't think that they don't want to be part of it. I think that they don't have the skill set, and they feel that it's too late, which is really not the case. We just need to devote a bit more time, because they are not accustomed to the technology the way that we are. So it's about teaching them the basic digital skills of turning on computers, sending emails, going on social media, finding information online, and then from then on, I'm sure that their lives is going to be so much easier. But it's because they're not part of the formal education system, it's just more difficult to reskill them in this sense. Now, regarding the age groups, I think it differs in different countries. I think in
Cultures.
Cyprus, exactly. I think in Cyprus the biggest struggle is perhaps with people over 65. especially the ones that they didn't have any contact with technology during their working life.
Okay, so what advice would you give to people to keep up with the digital skills? Basically, you know, focusing on the developing the skills or reskilling to be more, let's say, confident with the digital applications and use and connectivity. What would you advise the people to do?
I would say to own your learning and your career. Always stay informed and stay curious about the world and what is happening around us, what technology has to offer. It's not like going in a public school where you have a curriculum and somebody else is deciding for you what you're learning. We have to take ownership of how our careers is going to look like, and it's something that is changing all the time. There are no longer jobs for 30, 40 years. When you graduate, you go into a specific job and then you retire from there. Especially for us millennials and Generation Z, we are expected to change work every couple of years. So in order to do this and keep up, we also have to keep up with our learning.
Yes, definitely. Yes, and there are also some reports which say that Generation Z are more open to learning and adaptability and continuous learning, basically. Okay, with this note, I would like to close and thank you, Maria, for joining me today with this interesting conversation. I'm sure that Careers Express readers and Cyprus Mail readers also will be finding this quite interesting. Thank you very much. And until our next webcast, thank you for following us. Bye-bye.